thank you to the players today, and look forward to seeing them again sometime. Maybe it'll be another 6 months or so, but thank you very much for that. We look to the Bible, and we're always amazed at the miracles. We're amazed at the courage that is shown by many of the great, what we call heroes of the Bible. There was an editorial today in the Minneapolis paper decrying the fact that we live in an age that is lacking heroes, that is lacking courage. This particular writer, if you happen to read the column, is saying that she was comparing the disaster with the Concordia cruise ship with the disaster of the Titanic. Talking about how at the time of the Titanic, the heroic measures that people took to save one another, and the heroic measures that the captain took of the Titanic, and so on and so forth. And then compare that to this deplorable situation of the sinking of this cruise ship. And, of course, the story we heard about how the captain was the first one off the ship, and how the crew, it wasn't any help at all. And basically the bottom line of the editorial was that, we miss those great old days when people were courageous. And, we don't have that anymore. And I thought, geez, I don't know where this writer's getting this. Because the point is that we've always had cowards, and we've always had people who are courageous. And I'm sure on the Titanic there were people who were cowards. And I know from the stories I've heard that on the Concordia there were some great stories of courage. So it's unfortunate that she used that as an example of trying to show, how bad things are today, and how, but the fact is that there have always been people of courage. And if we went back to the history of the church, the beginning days when there were persecutions and people were thrown to the lions, that classic illustration. It didn't happen very often, but there were times when people were persecuted and killed for their faith. And we think of those down through the centuries who were burned at the stake for taking a stand for some things as simple as wanting to translate the Bible. We think of the early Methodists, reading this past week in some of Wesley's journals about the riots in Wednesbury, England, where the early Methodists had their businesses and their homes destroyed by riotous mobs of people. But even to this day, at times it seems it's hard to stand up for our faith. But God calls us to be courageous. God wants us to be courageous. So what does that mean? What does it mean today? I don't think we have to worry about being thrown to the lions. I don't think we have to worry about being burned at the stake. I don't think we have to worry about people pulling our houses down. But what does it mean today to be courageous? And I would suggest very simply this. It means to stand for what we believe. Sometimes that may mean literally taking a stand and saying something. But more often than not, what it simply means to me is living our Christian lives, having the courage to live for Jesus Christ, to being the people that He has called us to be, regardless of circumstances. And it may not be a problem in most cases. Sometimes it may be. But regardless, it doesn't matter. We stand forth for Jesus. We may not have to do the great things that the heroes of old did, but simply living our lives for Christ is the greatest act of courage. I encourage you, live for Jesus. Be His witnesses. Stand forth for Him.